Bite-Sized PL, professional learning you can consume during lunch or on a dog walk or right before you practice your violin or piano or drum set. Our goal is to provide meaningful, engaging, and brief conversations for educators. I'm Jeanette, and my co-host today is Jared. Welcome, Jared.
Yeah, this is great. I don't think we've done this before.
No, this is a unique set of guests. We have three members of the same family who are with us, and they are all three teachers in Davis School District. But wait, there's more. They all three teach band. So I wanted to bring the Wolf family in, and notice how I just avoided the plural there.
Well done.
The Wolf family.
We call ourselves the Wolf Pack, so
Okay,
you
that
can go
makes
for it.
sense. Good sense. So we wanted to invite them in to talk about education and what they've seen, what they think about what the future, and then also to ask them a little bit about building a program, which ends up being one of the more time-consuming programs that any secondary school has, which is instrumental music and specifically band. So welcome. We have Heath, who teaches band at Farmington Junior High. Welcome.
Correct. Thank you.
And his wife, Christine, who teaches we're here at Central Davis Junior High. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
And then their daughter, Michaela, who is in her second or third year teaching band at Syracuse High School. So welcome, Michaela. Thanks, you guys, for joining us. My first question is for Michaela. There was obviously a lot of passion for teaching and for music in the home where you were raised.
Yes. Just a
How
little.
did your parents' work lives influence your own decision to pursue teaching school? What did you see that made you think, I want to do that?
So I actually fought it for the longest time. I did not want to do what my parents did at all. I did not want to be anything like them. Not that they're bad influences or anything. I just
Nothing like them at all.
I'm just very, I guess, independent in that I want to do my own thing. Like everything, not everything, but things need to be my way, essentially. So they always joke with me about that. And so I got to college. I knew I wanted to do something with music. And I was kind of thinking I would do a major for a year or two and then possibly even switch majors to something like with the child life realm. Mm-hmm. And then that first week, our assignment was to develop our teaching philosophy. So as I was doing that project, I realized how important band had been in my life, and I couldn't imagine it not in my life going forward. And that I had the opportunity to change students' lives the way my life had been changed in high school and junior high, and I couldn't not take that opportunity. So I was quickly converted, for better or for worse. And here I am now, I guess.
Uh-huh. Has it been what you expected, or what's been surprising about this career, coming in as now the teacher rather than the child of the teachers?
Definitely different. I mean, I started school at the U in 2016, so pre-COVID. COVID hit my senior year, so I graduated during COVID, and I student taught the fall after the shutdown. And so it was completely different than I had ever expected. Like my first actual teaching experience was in hybrid, over Zoom and all of that. And so different. I mean, I'm yet to experience a normal school year. I'm hoping that's what this year is, because it's actually pretty good this year.
Yeah, so far, the new normal is holding, isn't it?
Cross our fingers.
For sure.
So pretty different in that realm. But as far as like the experiences go, I feel like it's pretty on par to what I experienced in high school and what I've grown up watching my parents do.
And have your parents stepped in as mentors for you?
Yeah, definitely.
Always.
Yeah, I can go home and ask them questions, and most of the time they'll answer. Sometimes they're like, no, we can't talk shop right now. We just need a break, which is fine because I do the same thing to them. So,
Well, that is one thing that, you have to wonder about where the whole family does it. Do you want to always talk about it, right?
Well, whether or not we want to talk about it or not, it happens just because there are things that need to be discussed and dealt with. And we do have 3 other children. Michaela's the oldest of 4, and all of them have been or are involved in music in some way. And sometimes they do say, okay, can we have dinner and no one talk about band? And that lasts usually 2 minutes. Maybe we'll make it a whole 5, but if something needs to be discussed, it's going to get discussed, and no fights have broken out over it. So we just get it done.
Okay, so I want to ask Christine and Heath, did you have any reservations about Michaela, following in your footsteps and getting into band?
Yes. Even when I went through school in my undergrad, which was a long time ago, I had an instructor who was very influential on me say, this job may not exist in 10 years time because of the way, arts had been being cut. And, arts always seemed to be on the chopping block of things that aren't that necessary. Thankfully, Davis District has put a premium on protecting the arts, and we feel relatively secure here. But even that being said, with all the new graduation requirements and the stress of the students, just wanting to focus on making sure that they're getting a high enough grade point average, and earlier they have to think about prioritizing certain fields, and it just makes it harder and harder to maintain a program. So, when she said she wanted to be a teacher, there were reservations about that. There's reservations about financially being able to take care of yourself. We're getting better in Utah, but it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't have any reservations about her being successful because I knew she would be fine. She basically grew up in a band room. There definitely were some reservations.
And I think on those same lines, Heath and I never were worried about her abilities in the classroom to be successful. We knew that she had and does have what it takes to be successful. And I think that is similar to a lot of what teachers face. Most of our challenges aren't always directly related to our ability to teach the concept. It's the other things that we're needing to deal with outside of our content area that makes our jobs significantly more difficult and challenging. And it's a real thing, to have a single income in Davis School District. If you're trying to live in our district, it's nearly impossible. I don't know where they would live with what teacher salaries are versus what rent and things are at that. And so it's a challenge, and it's always been a challenge, and it's something that we just keep plugging through. But we had no questions about her ability to be successful.
So is there any advice that you've given her that you'd be willing to share? And maybe it would be to any new teacher about, making the career joyful and sustainable.
When she graduated from college, we got her a dog.
What kind of dog? We got to know the kind of dog.
He's a Labradoodle. His name is Toby. He's my life and joy.
And really one of the reasons, and we did not have any pets with the kids growing up, but we knew that...
Hamster. Brownie.
Yes, we did have a hamster. We did have a hamster and some goldfish.
That little guy lived for 3 years.
He was a go-getter. But we got her a dog, and really the biggest reason was we wanted her to go home. We knew that if she didn't have a reason to leave work at some point, that she would be like the rest of us, which is a bit of a workaholic. And we tell this to our student teachers and other young teachers all the time. The job will take and take and take and take, and you have to have boundaries. And we're not saying that people shouldn't do their job, but we're saying that you have to create boundaries so that you can have a balanced life in the classroom and outside of the classroom so that you can be more effective in the classroom.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for anybody, right, Jeanette?
I'm just going to process that this may be the best advice we've ever heard on this program is getting a dog. Because the advice I give all the time.
Get a dog.
Because they do bring such joy and companionship. It really is something to go home to. So I'm really loving that. How about that sustainability piece? What are some of the other things that you do as teachers to put boundaries around a program that you kind of have to be always building?
You have to have something besides the job. So a hobby or something to that effect. We've gone through a couple of different phases of different things. Right now we're really enjoying pickleball. We've always enjoyed travel. So
that's fun.
But as Christine said, the job is a black hole. You're never done. You could stay until 9 o'clock every night working and not be done. There's always more to do to where you can feel more prepared. So you've got to have a reason. You've got to have something else because it will consume you. And I mean, I've been teaching quite a while, and there's times when I've let that happen. And even though you're seeing success in your program as an individual, you're not happy. You realize after a bit of time that it's not giving you the lifelong. Start over. Pause. It's not giving you that lifetime fulfillment of being a whole human being, and so you got to find anything that interests you. And even if it doesn't interest you, just go start exploring. Find something that when you go home, it's like, I'm done with work. Now I'm going to do this. And that gives you more energy as well. You think, wow, how would you want to go play pickleball after teaching all day? You actually do, because it's like something to look forward to. It's like, okay, where if you don't, then you go home and you're exhausted and you just repeat the cycle over, and it can be very depressing.
And you stay later. And
yep, exactly.
But when you know your pickleball game's coming up, like you're getting the paddles out, you're ready to go.
Well, especially when you have friends. I mean, we've been able to fortunately have a group of other teacher friends, and we go and we play together. And some of the couples that we play with, maybe the wives are not also band directors, and sometimes they're like, all right, stop talking band, get back on, and we're just going to play pickleball. And yeah, it's a challenge for all of us. One thing I would recommend, and I tell a lot of young teachers, is often they'll come from student teaching with a very successful teacher at a very successful program, and they will go into their own school and just beat themselves up over not having the same success, when it takes a lot of time to develop that and to develop their program into their program. And so I would say, have more grace with yourself. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you're learning from it. It's okay to go home and not feel successful that day and, come back fresh the next day and try again. But not to feel like you're never doing it well enough, because even the most seasoned veteran teachers feel that way. It's just, there's never a perfect scenario. So don't try, and just have more grace for your own abilities.
Nowadays, everything's immediate, right? Like we want immediate results. And yet, Heath, you've been over at Farmington for 24 years. Like, you can't expect to have that same kind of a program without having that experience.
One of my former students has actually started this year as the band director at where?
Sunset.
So first year teacher, 2 completely different programs. And she actually student taught with Christine. And, she's seen that of, this is what I've experienced and this is what I have. And that's a pretty big gap that I'm trying to cover in between there. So it's a very real thing.
So let's take just a minute and talk about that, being the teacher of an elective course, because even though students need some fine arts, they don't have to take band. And I had the experience of being an English teacher, which is a required course, but I also did journalism, yearbook, newspaper. And so I was always trying to build a program, but you don't want to build it too fast or too big, because then you're managing students who are not really interested in being there. So what advice do you have for teachers who are kind of building a program, whether it's band or some other elective in a building? How do you get kids in the chairs? Because it's not guaranteed.
Absolutely. And that's one of the hardest parts about our job, is that our jobs don't exist if we don't have kids in those seats. And if Heath and I don't have kids in our seats in the 7th grade, then the high school directors, Michaela, don't have them in the high school. Band and orchestra specifically are sequential education courses. And it's not something like, sometimes in choir you could start maybe in high school having very little former experience, but you can't really join the high school band without having ever played an instrument before. It's very challenging. Not that it's impossible, but it's not normal. So it's so important that we have strong recruitment abilities for that beginning of the 7th grade year, and that we have retention through junior high, and give the high school directors a fair chance to work on that retention as well. So there's all sorts of things with vertical alignment going on that we're working on, but could be better within our district. We're working on trying to increase the ability for 7th grade recruitment to be protected with all of the electives that are offered. And this is something we talk about in our PLCs all the time, how we can help get that started so that the high school directors have a chance to have full programs. And you could talk about that, Michaela, how it affects you to not have the numbers, in those junior high years.
It's hard. It's really hard, especially when you can't build a program off of limited instrumentation. I mean, you can, but it's much harder, and it takes a toll on the kids who are there making it work. I'm really fortunate to have really great feeders. They do a really great job. But I guess from our side of things, because my parents, the junior high side, they start the kids, and then essentially it's my job to keep them. So to try and help with that process, this is something I need to be way better at. The last 3 years, I've been kind of focusing on keeping my own head above water and focusing all my energy on my program. And I don't spend near enough time at my junior high, which I'm hoping to work on this term and, next term going forward. But just working with those students, going over and making sure they know who I am, going and helping my junior high junior high directors recruit. So going to elementary schools. We actually took my jazz band to, I think it was Cook Elementary in December, and we just played a concert for them for an assembly, and the kids were going crazy. It was so cute. And my kids loved it, but just little things like that, playing at football games, that's a huge thing. That was something at Syracuse that did not happen for a long time before I got there. And that's been one of the biggest uphill battles I've been fighting, is building a band community when the band hasn't been present in the community. Syracuse has been alive for 12 years now, I think. I think we opened in 2011 or something. And no one knows about the band or anything.
No pep band at the games.
Until I got there.
Well, a band program cannot be successful without three really important components. One is a good teacher. Second is a really supportive administration that sees and shares your vision, and third, a community that also sees and shares in that vision. And not any of those three legs of the stool can exist without the other to support the band. Just to kind of go off of what Michaela said, today I was in 5 elementary school classrooms. I lied. That's 7 that I was at. And trying out instruments with these incoming 7th graders to get them excited for band next year. And while I was doing that, the high school from Layton High, the high school director was in here working with my jazz band because I was in another place. And so having that vertical alignment and that it takes flexibility scheduling wise, which again is the component of having an administrative team that can see the vision of how it needs to work vertically so that you have that flexibility to help each other and support each other. It's crucial for the long-term success of any community or any program.
And as far as building a program, obviously first you have to get them in the door, but you've got to keep winning them over constantly, every year, right? And so the teacher has to have a passion. They have to really care. And I don't know many teachers who don't, but sometimes that doesn't come across in their personality. So you've got to show the students that this is more than just a class. Music means something to me. It's important to me. And I try to convey that to my students. And then success draws people. If you're successful, people want to be a part of that. So it's really important that when you have those students that they feel a sense of success and they feel like they're improving. And if they have that, then they probably want to stay. But if it's just kind of meh, then there's just so many other options out there for them to go and take advantage of. And, in my schooling days, to quit something and there really weren't a whole lot of other choices to go to. Now, I mean, my goodness, and people won't put up with having their time wasted anymore. They just won't. It's this isn't giving me what I want. I'm gone. I'm going to go try something else. So,
well, one of the dilemmas of an elective course is you want to have discipline and high standards for your students, but if they're not getting A's, a lot of them, it's hard. It's a
truth.
Really hard balance.
Yeah,
That's what I'm fighting right now.
We all fight it. I mean, we all three have very high standards, and it's a fine balance between having those high standards and helping those kids to be able to keep those high goals that they have. And along with that goes that instant gratification part. So many of our students and parents sometimes feel like that as soon as it's not fun anymore.
Even for one day.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I wish I was kidding.
Yeah, that they definitely need to try something else. And, there's something to be said for encouraging and sometimes strongly encouraging our students to keep going through something that may not be fun, to at least fulfill the commitment that they made, and then to reevaluate when that commitment's done versus just going, yeah, I just don't want to fight them on it, so we're going to whatever. It's an important lesson for students to learn as they add that to their toolkit of abilities that they come out of school with.
And it's been especially hard coming out of COVID, because when COVID hit, we just basically dropped all expectations. And if something became even remotely challenging to a student, it's like, well, let's make it easier, or let's just eliminate it altogether. So now when they're first or faced with any type of, this is going to be a little challenging, you might have to work a little bit harder, their response is, well, we don't have to do this. We shouldn't have to do this. And so it's a whole re-education process about, no, some things you're going to have to work a little harder for, and no, it's not going to happen immediately.
And I think all teachers would agree with that coming out of COVID. But like you said, with electives, they do seem to have a little bit more of a challenge. And again, that comes to having a really supportive administrative and counseling team that says we have procedures in place for helping those students and parents not to just pick the flavor of the day, that there are things, because when they drop classes, not just band, it affects the FTEs across the school. And so when a school schedule is built, the school is hoping that stays pretty solid and secure, and there's some fluctuation, but you can't have these mass exoduses out of any of those courses, or it's going to really mess with the school's structure and FTE. And so again, everyone at the table needs to have that vision.
Well, and in band, there's that added piece where you're working together. And so it's crucial that everybody really does come along at the same speed, because you won't be able to play the pieces that you want to if you've got people that aren't putting in the effort and the work that they need to.
Or not even there, attendance.
Well, yeah, and then you got to build in the rewards. Like when the kid does come, there's got to be that cool time you go through it and everybody's like got chills, or did you hear that, or I'm so proud and you guys are doing so well. All of that builds the reward so that it starts to feel like, maybe this is something I'll stay with. It's a real challenge, and support. We all need to support each other, administrator, parents, et cetera.
We work hard and we play hard, not simply in, playing our instruments, but we work really hard in our programs, whether it's a junior high program or a high school program. These kids are doing things that often they say junior high kids should not be able to do. And they're completely capable of those high expectations with proper instruction. But then we really try and give them those opportunities to sit back and reflect on the reward of it, and to go, wow, that really was an amazing thing that we did, and to enjoy that experience. And you have to go back and forth with that to help get them to that next level.
All right. Well, thank you for the conversation today, and thanks for sharing your passion and your family vision for music and education. We really appreciate it. I know I have a couple of my own kids who, it was because of percussion that they kept going to high school. That was that was their safe place, their happy place. And so I'm just so grateful for great teachers in band programs.
Well, and it's not surprising that the Wolf Pack would offer up getting a dog, right? As Jeanette said, maybe the best advice we've ever had. But at the end of our podcast, we do like to have everyone share something that they're really enjoying and a gift to our audience. And so we're hoping to hear from the Wolf Pack and hear what your gift is for everyone.
While I'm pulling up a picture of my puppy, maybe.
So one thing that I am loving recently is Disneyland. Because I love Disneyland.
That's a recent thing?
No, it's not.
It's not recently that I've loved Disneyland, but we just got back Saturday night, 2 days ago, with our bands, the Farmington Junior High and Central Davis Junior High, performing at Disneyland and doing clinics at Cal State Long Beach. And I think we did all 3.5 days on like 12 hours sleep. And we were absolutely exhausted, but the students were incredible. The parents were incredible. The music that they played was stunning, and their behavior was fabulous. And the joy in their faces, there's no way I could take a picture of the moments where they are just in utter awe of what they're experiencing and making bonds, both watching performances from professional musicians, and their faces are just lighting up from ear to ear, things that they've never heard of, they've never seen before. It's just, I love student travel and what it does for kids, and we are so grateful that we have a chance to share that with our students, and I love Disney.
Yeah, wonderful. That's great. All right, Michaela?
Honestly, just enjoying time with my dog. I mean, I'm grateful that I have him, but the last few weeks I've been super busy outside of my school responsibilities hosting the high school all-state band. And so that finally finished up. Finally, I feel bad saying that, but finally finished up. So I've honestly just been enjoying having some time with my dog, some time to myself, go get a pedicure.
Perfect.
The simple pleasures of life. But I guess also Disney, me and my coworkers actually. So Nathan and Christine and Cheryl.
We are a Disney family. He puts
He
up
goes
with
along.
it.
He goes along.
I pay for it.
If we can go back to like the advice thing, it's just like developing a good relationship with your department, especially in this field. Like there's a lot of people who don't get along, especially like between band, orchestra, and choir. It's so sad. And I just have so many friends who just don't get along with their departments. And it's like you can't function, you can't be successful without each other. That's something Rod would always. So Rod is the director I took over. That's something he always said. We're better, we're stronger because of each other.
And then you add theater in there as
In
well.
theater. Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Well, yeah, it's like you have to have those relationships. And it's like, I'm just so fortunate to have some of my actual, like my best friends, like we hang out on the weekends, be my coworkers. So sorry to put in more info with the fun stuff.
I'm loving, I mean, last year, I guess, was kind of a back to normal year, but this one feels like we're actually, you know, we weren't waiting any second for another COVID wave to hit and everything to fall apart again. This year feels like, okay, we're starting to get our rhythm back. The kids are responding to challenges more, and like Christine said on that trip, we had a disaster on our trip. We had the Southwest thing where we landed and found out our flight was canceled, and I'm in the airport with 82 junior high kids with no flight.
That sounds like the all-time disaster.
Well, but the thing was, the kids were amazing. Like, it could have been so bad and had kids just bouncing off the walls, and we just went and said, listen, here's the situation. We need you to be flexible. You know how to act. And we went to go fix problems, and they were angels. They just said, what can we do to help? What do we need to do? And it was amazing. It was one of those moments that makes you go, this is why I wanted to be a teacher. Because I always say to people who say, oh, you teach junior high? Oh, I'm so sorry. I always say, you're looking at the wrong kids. Because the kids I teach are amazing in so many ways.
All right. Thank you, Wolfpack, so much for joining us today. As always, thanks to our producer, Tom, for making us sound good. This season, we are also putting video of the podcast on YouTube. You can continue listening on your favorite podcast app and also check out the video on our YouTube channel. Check the show notes for that link. Thanks for joining us. Please like and subscribe and share the podcast with others. See you at school.